Welcome back to the Quantum Guide Show. Today in episode 176, I'm very happy to continue where we left off last month with part 2 of Harness the Simulation with my merry panel, Stephen Stathis, Don Rogers, and Canadian Spinja. Unfortunately, Jennifer Halcame could not make it to the show today. Stephen Stathis created and hosts the popular podcast and channel BG Cast, the podcast that covers the Great Awakening live and is a multifaceted podcast that covers everything going on with the Great Awakening on planet Earth. Steve had his awakening in 2008 and since then has dedicated his life to his spiritual path, uncovering the truth about the nature of human beings and existence itself, as well as uncovering the occult nature of world governments and global establishments. Canadian Spinja has been on her awakening journey since 2007, has been on a quest for truth and healing ever since. Spinja fell in love with weaving when she was 6 and bought her first spinning wheel in 2011. And then she entered the Fiber Arts program at Ontario Handweavers and completed the Spitter Certificate Program Level 5 in 2013. In 2024, she created her YouTube channel, hoping to empower and inspire people to do things for themselves, share alternative healing modalities, save money, and embrace the feeling of creating. Don Rogers, in September of 2023, Don Rogers started having a succession of nightmares and memories of intergalactic warfare. Some of these events seem to be happening in the future. Thankfully, his partner, Canadian Spinja, had been on a podcast information deep dive into the spiritual and paranormal and convinced Don to listen to a podcast about the super space program, and it immediately resonated with him. After he was put into hypnotic regression, everything started to make sense, and he created his own YouTube channel to offer his insights to other newly awakened people. Now, all of the links are below in the description box, and today in part 2 of this 3-part series called Harness the Simulation, we will be answering the question today, how do we navigate the simulation? Thank you for subscribing. Leave me a comment and smash that like button. Stephen, Spinja, and Don, welcome to the Quantum Guide Show, everybody.
I appreciate that. Thank you so much, Karen, for having me on again. It's good to be here.
Oh, my pleasure, my pleasure.
Super stoked, Karen. Thank you. And if you can't hear me, I'll just run out with Dawn.
No, I can hear you now. I can hear you. It's all good. Hi, Dawn.
Okay.
Hi. Beautiful. Sorry, I hit the wrong button there and kicked myself out.
No, it's all good. It's all good. It's all good. So here we are talking about harnessing the simulation. So last month we talked about what is the simulation and about, quite a bit about simulation theory and how we understand it. And today we're going to talk about how we personally harness the simulation. So obviously it does look like we are living in a simulation. Some call it a holographic universe with, of course, real life consequences to our actions. But I'm wondering if you want to share anything left over from last month, or do you want to dive right into techniques and things that you found help you to actually maneuver within the simulation?
I guess I'll go first. I do have a bit to say, and it's kind of interesting because I just did a show yesterday with Rock Castaldo, and you've had him on your show, and he's an absolutely fascinating individual, and he's very well versed in plasma physics. And basically, on a plasmic level, he basically broke down the same thing I did on an ionic level about how everything in this reality seems to be highly in tune and impacted by the vibrational frequency that we project into our own reality. So that was just the kind of thing that was on the top of my head. And I think that has a lot to do with what we're going to get into today.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. Well, one thing I'd like to add, I mean, because I unfortunately wasn't able to be here last month, but no, it's definitely become apparent that we are living in some kind of interesting sort of simulation. I've been joking about it lately and calling it a higher dimensional monitoring reality show. Almost at times it feels like it's just that's the way it's been hitting me, I guess you could say right now, is that those are the words that are coming to me. I mean, really a great way, that I think I maneuver through the simulation is I have this kind of interesting understanding, and I know Don and Spinja have watched this episode, and I know Karen, that you have advertised this episode of mine before, but it's the symbolic lens. And uh, based on my experience and the experiences I've had in my spiritual evolution, I've come to find that symbolism, at least in my eyes, is the prime fundamental language of this reality or the simulation. And written and verbal language is secondary because, due to most of the experiences that I've had with the divine, they've always come in a non-literal, in a different kind of tangible format, I guess you can say. It's usually in symbols. In my subjective stage on my day-to-day life, it's usually in emotions, it's in subtle nuances, it's in subtle hints. Very rarely is the message or the thing that I am seeking or the answer to the question that I have, very rarely is it in a literal context. And when it is in a literal context, it's usually done through a loved one or a close friend. And the best example I give is, have you ever been like in a sticking point in your life and you can't get out of it, and then that really good friend or that family member comes along and tells you exactly what you need to hear? Just, it seems to be the exact thing that makes the switch flip and you go, oh yeah, I've got it now. I think I understand. So that to me is the divine actually being like, okay, Steve's not getting my hints through the symbolism, through the subtle nuances or anything like that. So we're going to try it this way through his brother or his mother or something like that. But I digress. The one thing I would implore people to do is to open themselves up to how the divine is speaking with them. That would be the number one thing, because a lot of people think that it's just going to be all literal and the answer is going to come out and just smack you right in the face. No, that's not how it works. You have to reciprocate. You have to meet the divine halfway. And I think once you do that and you open yourself into that realization, then you're going to start seeing more things. And you're going to be like, wow, like I've been missing out on this all along, at least in my experience.
Yeah, well said, well said.
Thank you.
I know in my life experiences, I push the envelope quite a lot because I've always suspected we lived in a simulation. I didn't exactly know how it worked, but I've had great success with law of attraction. I mean, I've never tried to manifest millions of dollars or very much in the way of material things, except for what I need. Like, for instance, I needed decent housing in a nice neighborhood where it was nice and quiet, no drama, and, where I had everything I needed and privacy and everything. And I got that. I needed enough money so that I could eat well and so that I could buy some things for my grandchildren and afford to go visit them and things like that. And I got it. I've even played around with corrupting past memories, which I've had wonderful success with. And I think Dawn would be the best one to talk. Well, I shouldn't say the best one, but better than me to talk about the double slit experiment. But, once we see something a certain way, the particles actually go back in time and change it. So I have found wonderful success from positively corrupting past memories. Sure makes me feel a lot better. And I don't know, Dawn, do you want to speak a bit to maybe the audience that's not really familiar with the double slit experiment?
I can, yeah, and I can do it fairly basically because I'm getting used to explaining this. Basically, the double slit experiment was done many years ago, and what it basically found out was that ions, when observed, act differently than when not observed. And what I mean by this is, like, they shot ions at a screen and they acted in a certain wave pattern. Now, when they were in the room and shot the ions, they came out straight as you would expect them to. So they're like, okay, they act differently when there's a human in the room. This could be electromagnetic field. It could be something else. Maybe there's some type of human interference. So they took the human element out of it and put in a mechanical camera. The ions still reacted as though they were being watched, therefore proving that they are sentient and can control their own reality. And Karen was actually the one who cued me into the fact that if they actually changed the camera angle, the ions would actually form to go back in time and change the observation. I think that's about the quickest way I could explain it.
Yeah, yeah. Canadian Spinja, do you have anything you want to add at this point?
I just wanted to go back. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Just in regards to just some observations, like my own observations in regards to the simulation. It's pretty fresh, right? I noticed loops, things that are repeating. And one example I will use is my luck, and it's happened with Don. He's into it. The Neighbors from Hell. It seems like where like right from my very first apartment, there's always been very disruptive neighbors. Right to our neighbor in Ontario, using his lawnmower as a weapon, just disturb any peace that we had. And then today, you know, like we had a falling out with an individual, and it's crazy because the last falling out that we had, like as a couple, it was pretty much the same thing. Dawn was connected with the angel, and they had a disagreement, and then I was cut loose by something, and it's just I'm seeing patterns, and these are just patterns that I've noticed, and I think where with this, yeah.
Your mic's doubling up. Just come out here.
All right. Okay, okay. Carry on, and we'll get.
Okay.
Sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt her. It was doubling up on itself. So
Yeah, I was having trouble understanding what she was saying. So I don't know. I think it was a mic issue, but yeah, if you guys can share the screen, that's just as good because your audio is good. So
yeah, there we go.
there we go. Okay. Hello.
Hi. So where I was going with that, a couple of things, like with the loops or the patterns, is just pay attention, because if you see recurring things, you kind of question yourself. Don't question yourself, because it's probably legit. And as far as getting out of these loops, like there, I noticed, and of course I'm drawing a blank with examples, but one of the ways that we broke the loops was to get out of Ontario, and the experience has been quite different. And it even ties into like I'm working on a theory as well. What Ra Castaldo was saying, he got talking about the granite that was underneath Ontario. And it just seems like the energy was so toxic, and just building on what he said, it has me questioning, is that part of what's keeping the loop going? because it seems like ever since we left that area, we left that kind of energy, our lives, like it's taken a bit to get to where we are and to where we're going, but has improved dramatically, and we've broken a lot of those loops.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
One thing I wanted to add in was, I think during my hypnosis, what actually changed my perspective on reality itself is seeing another stage of my consciousness in my own mind. Now, what I'm talking about is it was almost like a past life regression that was done to me, except it was to understand what I was dreaming about, which is a parallel life regression, I guess you would call it. And at that moment of seeing that I existed in a different time and date, place, and density, I was like, okay, so human life is not all there is to the existence of your consciousness. So this clearly is just a stage of our consciousness. This is I don't want to call the entire universe a program, but it's teaching us how to carry on to a different level of existence. I think that's why we're each here. And that's why you get stuck in the karma trap and all that crap, because you get stuck in the construct of society, because that's a whole other subject, because I don't even think we're supposed to be in society. I think we're here for a natural experience, and we become too reliant on society as itself. My whole point was, when I went under hypnosis and saw another stage of my own existence, it changed everything for me and my perspective on this reality.
Yeah, interesting. Now, I wanted to say something about that, because what kind of goes hand in hand with simulation theory is the many worlds theory. And I have often wondered, like when I really changed my circumstances, it was because I not only did things differently, I thought differently. And it's like trading places with another Karen in another universe who has the circumstances that I was desiring. And I was thinking about it, like if we have a soul, do we all have souls? All the Karens in the multiverse all have souls? Or is there basically one soul that dominates and we just trade places within the different universes? I don't know. I don't have the answer to that. But I do notice that along with radical change often goes subtle differences, like, for instance, the differences in the Mandela effect, or something else where someone who I knew once or doesn't remember ever knowing me, or something like that. I don't know. Stephen, do you have any words of wisdom on that?
I've speculated on this a little bit, and I'm really leaning towards this. So I think, yes, I do believe there's many different, I'll call them parallel timelines. I am a huge proponent of the fact that I don't think that we have linear time at all. What we do have is something called parallel time. We have all of the different timelines running in concession with each other. I do think we are our own each we're our own each unique subjective focal point of the divine universal consciousness, and I feel that like I said, this is speculation, but I feel like we're currently set in this current experience, but we are aware of the other experiences, and that's kind of the best way that I can kind of put it. And I do agree with you, Karen, on that. When I do feel that we make a certain decision or we do a certain manifestation, or we're trying to achieve a certain outcome, we can potentially in some way swap places with somebody who's on a different parallel, or another version of us that's on a different parallel timeline, that kind of gives us that desired result or the desired evolution that we're looking for. I mean, it's definitely interesting too. I do feel in some ways I've borrowed information from my past experience, my past lives and things like that. But what's really interesting about it is it was almost as if when I had these experiences, they were occurring at the same time, or, in the same space that I was, just a different perceived area or point in time. So I do think that it's highly possible that this could be the case. I mean, especially if we're taking into account panpsychism. If some of you guys don't know what that is, it's Don, you're going to love this. It's one of the most hated theories in quantum physics right now, and the reason why it's hated is because it throws out that consciousness is the prime fundamental of all existence, meaning that matter is dependent on conscious observation. And one of the biggest reasons this is hated is, number one, it takes our place in the universe and our existence in the universe as being coincidental or by chance, and makes it absolutely necessary. That's the number one reason we are necessary to the universe existing. And that places us in a very important role here. And the second reason that this is one of the most hated theories in quantum physics at the time is because it destroys objective reality. At that point, if consciousness is what I would call the prime fundamental of this existence, and that this universe stems from the observation, that means what we have is a collective of subjective realities. We don't have one overall objective reality, and that just throws a lot of the material scientists into a tizzy, and they can't handle that. Because but no, if panpsychism is indeed the case and reality is all of consciousness, that does open the door to these theories, and that does open the door to all of these being a possibility.
Well said. Dawn, you look like you have something you want to add to that, do you?
Oh yeah, because again, this just goes into my interview last night with Rock Castaldo, as he was explaining how the plasma on the sun actually emits basically informational codes, and some of these codes even certain birds will mimic, and it's basically the life force of our reality. Birds are singing the songs of life from the plasma that is our sun, right? So exactly what Stephen's saying is, if there's informational light codes that birds on our reality are interpreting and repeating and helping the planet grow, then it's absolutely, it makes sense that those same light codes can be absorbed by our ions, helping us create reality.
So I wanted to share with you guys something that was so simple and had a huge dramatic effect in my life. And this is pertaining to how I personally harness the simulation. So imagine the simulation's like a horse, and you need to sort of harness it and get it to kind of get you where you want to go in life. And this is so simple, and it was so dramatic. So this is not my original idea. I saw someone on YouTube who had done it, and I decided to try it. So basically, up to a certain point around, 2017, 2018, I did not consider my life very successful, not by my terms, not from what I wanted to achieve, not what I wanted to see happen. And so I decided to do this little ritual. So, and it's also based on those of you who are familiar with Dr. Emoto and how words actually affect the structure of water. So I took two identical transparent glass glasses, and I had a jug with some water in it. And I put a label on the glass to my left, and I worded it as unsuccessful. And then the glass on my right, I wrote on the piece of paper successful and stuck that onto the glass to the right. And I kept it very general for a reason, because sometimes you got to be careful what you ask for. You just might get it and it doesn't look and smell and taste the way you thought it would. And I thought, well, success is something that, it can be subjective. So anyway, so what I did was I poured the glass that had the label unsuccessful. I poured it half full of water, and I focused my intention on it. And I said, okay, Karen, up to this point, I would say your life has not been very successful. I could definitely call it unsuccessful. But in this very moment, everything is about to change. And I took the glass of water and I poured it into the other glass that was labeled successful. And I focused my attention on the glass of water, and I said, from now on, you can't lose. Your life is going to be absolutely successful. This is just how it is. And then I took the glass that said successful, and I drank the water. And then I put the glasses away, washed them and put them away. And that was it. That was it. It was very, very simple ritual. And I gotta say, like, it wasn't a smooth sail, but oh my God, my dreams have really come true. I consider myself very successful in so many ways. My health, my relationships with other people, my community, the housing that I live in, having enough resources so that I'm not worrying about money. God, I hated worrying about money all the time. And I hated living in crappy houses and crappy apartments with crappy neighbors. And all of that changed for me. It didn't happen overnight. It just, everything just started to change. And my life became just holistically more successful. So I really want to recommend that to all the viewers and listeners, because if it worked for me, maybe it will work for you guys too. Stephen, did you have something you wanted to say about that?
For sure. One thing I want to say is that's a really awesome little ritual you did there, Karen. I think you hit a few of the key pivotal points. I think that at least I feel from in my experience that you can harness the simulation. One of the biggest things I would like to add, I didn't get a chance to actually go over this last time when we were doing our FKN thing about manifestation, but this is actually something I think really works well, and I've been experiencing very wonderful results from this. Moving into a state of giving. Now, what do I mean by that? Now, a lot of people, yes, we're always kind of in somewhat of a state of giving, especially doing what we do. But really, what this is every time you get a manifestation that you desire, or you get your desired outcome, you give back to the divine. Now, what happens, there's many different ways of giving back. A good example is like, let's say you were asking, you needed $100. This is a good example. You needed $100 and you got that $100 and you looked at the divine and you said, I really appreciate that. I'm going to give you this 20 back because you helped me out. And take that however you'd like to. There's many different ways of giving back. And what this does is this puts you into a state of giving. And when your higher self and the divine consciousness understand that your frequency is in this state of giving, you're going to harness the simulation in almost what I would call a masterful way. Because that's what the divine wants. That even plays into gratitude. You know what I mean? Having something as simple as a daily gratefulness ritual or a daily gratitude ritual, you will see immediate changes just from doing that. I promise you that. I mean, it was so immediate for me. Like, I've always been grateful and I've always tried to act grateful for everything that I have and everything that I do. But really stating that intention with your words at the beginning of the day, just like you were saying, Miss Karen, Dr. Emoto, how our words affect this reality. It's something to that. I mean, we look at etymology and the basis fundamental of all the words as well. And that's why we do have to be really careful with the words that we speak, not just towards ourselves, but towards others. And that's something that we have to take into consideration. Of course, I still have problems with it myself. We're not perfect. We're figuring this all out as we go. The other thing, too, that has to do with words are sacred languages. I've noticed a profound effect from using mantras in the language Sanskrit. This kind of even ties into the cymatic effect. If all of you are not familiar with what cymatics are visible sound waves. When we take certain frequencies and we play them through mediums, whether it's a cymoscope, a non-Newtonian liquid, or sand on a Cialdini plate, what we're greeted with is this geometry, this beautiful geometry. And we can see that a lot of the lower frequencies that we play don't really have this very intricate, beautiful geometry. It's very basic, very bland. And then when we move into the higher frequencies, or we use these different languages like Sanskrit, we start to see this geometry emitting, this beautiful geometry coming from all of this. And you have to think like, well, we vibrate at a resonance frequency too, right? So that means we're also emitting this beautiful geometry as well into the universe and into our conscious subjective stage as well. So it's good to continue that beautiful geometry, if you get what I'm saying, and to, watch the words you speak, use these sacred languages, use these rituals with intention for these manifestations, and harnessing the simulation. These have been a few of my key hacks that I've used that I've seemed to really notice that work. I mean, the one thing I'm a huge proponent of is it's a lot more simpler than it's made out to be. A lot of people try to make this complex. They try to make it seem like you have to join a monastery or you need to join something else and do this. No, this is all very simple and accessible to each of us. It's just the desire, the will, and the intention to do so.
Mm-hmm. Now, Canadian Spinja, I know you've done a lot of work with gratitude, haven't you? Do you want to tell
Oh,
some of the viewers and listeners about that?
absolutely. And yeah, I was just building on what Stephen was saying. I've actually made it part of my daily ritual. I just have this thing that I do in the morning, reinforcing the protection shield around us, and then on my way to work, I have I call it my morning meeting with my team. So my guides and the benevolence. I don't have any names. I know a lot of people do. So if you do, that's awesome. I don't know. I just talk to them in general, and I just go on a gratitude rampage. And it's so easy to do. And then if you want to pull into the law of attraction to this, the more you do it, the easier it becomes. And so just as an example, I'm driving to work in my dream truck. It's the, I never expected it. So easy. I love my truck. Thank you so much for this wonderful truck that's going to get me there safely. And then I move on to my work. My workplace is one of it's the best place I have ever worked. And I mean, there's some stuff, but every workplace has it. But otherwise there's no conflict. My bosses are cool. My boss, she is so much fun. She drove her scooter in through the workshop this morning. I forgot to tell you that. So I'm grateful for that. And then I've even and really where it started was was with The Secret. And I know a lot of people just it's helpful for a starting off point, because that is where I learned how important gratitude is. Because at that point in time, I was in a bad relationship. I'd left, and I ended up going to a women's shelter with my then baby. And I was looking around and what do I do? I don't know where I'm going to go. I don't know what I'm going to do. I've got nothing. And my family, my mom was there for me, but otherwise I didn't have anybody. And so I went out and I got some sticky notes, and I wrote thank you messages all over. I stuck them everywhere. Thank you for every tiny little thing. And then I also challenged myself with a gratitude journal. I would write down 3 things, and then the challenge of it was the next day I had to write 3 more things, but not the same thing. So the first little while, easy peasy, but it eventually it gets a little challenging, because you have to, it's easy, your family and your friends and your home and all that stuff, but then you have to actually start looking. And when you start looking, for me anyway, it really changed my perspective. And it's oh, yeah, it seems like things aren't going so great, but wow, I've got this and I've got that, and this is pretty awesome. And I even did it to the point where my son was probably about 2 or 3 years old. He was we were driving along, and we were coming up to a red light, and then all of a sudden it turned green, and he's like, "Thank you, green light." So that's my gratitude journey.
Wonderful. And Dawn, while I've got you up on the screen, do you have anything you want to add?
I actually do. When we're talking about, how we individually harness the simulation, you were actually a huge turning point, surprise, surprise, for me in my understanding, and basically a paradigm shift on this whole concept. And what I'm talking about was when we had our visit and you showed us that energetic experiment on how far your emotional frequency or electronic field projects out of your body, given your emotion that you're feeling. And that kind of kicked my science mind. I thought I was talking to her on the drive home from Red Deer, but I thought about that the whole way home. Because in my scientific mind, I was like, well, wait a minute. If I'm emitting a frequency, that means that every other thing that I'm coming in contact with that has an individual frequency, I'm now changing it. So if I can keep myself in a high vibrational frequency, there's a good chance everything I come into contact is going to vibrate a little bit higher. And since I've taken that mindset, I got to admit my life's been pretty damn easy. And a lot of the people I interact with are fairly high vibration. And it was literally with the experiment that you showed us that you can emit a frequency out to like 25 feet away. Well, that's science. That's not woo-woo. My frequency is now touching everything else's frequency. So that's how I started harnessing the simulation. And thank you.
Oh, you're very, very welcome. I want to pause for a 2.5-minute promotion break and then come back and I'll tell everybody basically about the experiment we did. So hang on. Hi guys, break time for a short message. YouTube will not monetize me, so if you enjoy my content and want to support my efforts, help me to cover my expenses by visiting my shop to buy yourself a beautiful orgone generator. Zendome's Orgonite are my unique brand, and they are ethically sourced, handmade, and double charged for maximum effect. They are only available through my website, www.KarenHoltonHealthCoach.com. Many people are finding comfort with Zendome's orgone generators, commonly called Orgonite. They are a simple compound which balance ambient energy by converting negative energy and EMF into positive healing energy with many easily confirmed health benefits. They are a simple compound with alchemic and energetic properties. These devices function as self-driven, continuously operating, highly efficient, negative to positive energy transmutation factories. They help diminish the harmful effects of electromagnetic frequency radiation by attracting and converting negative energies, retuning them into new and more healthful sound and light wave patterns. And they help to purify the atmosphere and accelerate plant growth. They also help stimulate positive mood and are a natural remedy for poor sleep patterns. When Orgonite is within range of any corded or wireless electronic device, it will efficiently and continuously transform that energy into orgone as it is being transmitted. This essentially creates orgone energy transmitters out of any and all emitters of harmful negative energy. You can use these devices for focusing the mind, healing, meditation, and for spiritual growth. Zendome's Orgonite are my unique brand of orgone generators, and they are only available through my website. Don't be fooled by imitations. Check out my website to see my latest selection at www.KarenHoltonHealthCoach.com. That's KarenHolton healthcoach.com. Check them out today. Now, let's get back to the show. Well, we're back. I'm just reading the private chat here.
Oh, you got to see. I actually want, if you don't mind, Karen, I would love to touch on that because this all seems to be, because I definitely want to hear your experiment for sure.
No, go for it. Go for it.
So I figured you would love this. So I've been lately, one of the things of mine that I've been doing is I've been proving the subtle body system to be a very real thing. I feel that this is a real component of our physical existence here. You can actually, a lot of ways, flex your chakras. Like, yes, you can feel them, you can flex them. They're a lot like muscles, but it's interesting because you all were talking about the auric field and how you can send frequencies, 25 feet away from you through your auric field. Well, the auric field is actually your eighth chakra. This is something that a lot of people aren't really privy to. This is in a lot of different ancient Vedic traditions and things like that see the auric field as the eighth chakra. So why wouldn't you want to take care of your eighth chakra as an important chakra? Because it's the one that's surrounding you. It's the one that is permeating your energy into the field. So, I mean, that's just something I wanted to add. And this kind of just even lends a little bit of credence to the fact that the subtle body is a very real thing. This is not just some metaphysical concept that's been talked about in these different books. So, Karen, lead the way. I want to hear what you did with this. This sounds very interesting.
Thank you for that, Stephen. That's awesome. It ties in beautifully. Okay, so long story short, Canadian Spinja and Don Rogers came to visit me at my home in Red Deer, Alberta. I took them out to the backyard and had them stand away from each other. And Don actually filmed it. You can watch it on March 4th Productions. That's with the number 4. The link's below. And so what I did was I showed Canadian Spinja how to position a metal coat hanger in her hand so that it was very loosely held in place. And sorry, I'm doing it backwards. I did that after. Sorry, let me start over. Okay, so I told Canadian Spinja to think about something that, well, first of all, not to think about anything, and I just measured her auric field. So what I did is I held the coat hanger very loosely with the hook pointing towards her, and my hand halfway across my hand was the bottom bar of the coat hanger, just loosely held it. And I slowly backed away from her. And when I reached the outer limit of her auric field, it went and bent sideways because it was acting as a divining rod. So then I went up close to her and I asked her to think about something that got her really upset, something that was just terrible, terrible to think about, made her feel bad. I said, don't worry about it. We're going to fix it in a minute. Just bear with me. And she did. And I took not even 1 or 2 steps back and the coat hanger went to the side. Her auric field had shrunk to basically being within an inch of her actual physical body. So then I said, now I want you to think about something that makes you so blissfully happy you can barely contain the joy you feel. And she did that. And I took the coat hanger and I backed up and I backed up and I backed up and I looked around me to see if I was going to get to the tree because I was almost out of the yard. And I backed up and I backed up and I don't know, Dawn can tell you how many feet it was. It was quite a ways, and then the coat hanger went to the side. So what I demonstrated was the auric field around us is dependent on the emotions we're feeling. And when we're feeling yucky, like if we're just constantly on our social media looking at negative stuff and watching really depressing world events on YouTube and stuff like that, our auric field just shrinks. And it not only doesn't do us any good, it doesn't really have a positive effect on anyone else. But when we're full of joy, our auric field is huge and it overlaps. We're like giant Venn diagrams, and we absolutely do affect each other. So then I taught, and this is the part I should have waited till later to say in the beginning. Then I taught Canadian Spinja how to do it, and she measured Dawn's field, and we did the same experiment a second time, and it worked beautifully. So, I mean, it was such a powerful demonstration of how much energy we have and how far outside the body this is. This is happening, and we absolutely do have an effect on each other. Dawn, did you just want to say anything else about the experiment?
I do, because I actually went further after we did it and found some charts and graphs and stuff on the wonderful internet. And like each one of our emotions has a frequency, a resonance attached to it. And where it gets even crazier is if a bunch of us like are in trauma mode or we're all at low vibration. If you understand the projection of radio waves, low density frequencies can't get past the ionosphere. So what that means is we're basically continuously pelting each other with shitty vibes. I really don't have another word for it, because they can't even escape the ionosphere because they're just being recycled. That's part of this karmic trap. We are making each other constantly feel terrible through this. High vibrational, like things like satellite and UHF, can actually pierce the ionosphere because they're a higher vibration. I wish I had the pictures with me, but there's entire charts on what frequency your emotions emit, and you're affecting everybody else and everything else that you come in contact with those frequencies.
Absolutely, absolutely. Stephen, let's go back to what you were saying about our auric field, because I know you've got more you want to add about this.
For sure. I mean, this experiment is actually very interesting. I'm going to have to give it a go myself. But I mean, seriously, we talked about this on the FKN meetup chat we did the other month, when we are in very intense emotional states. We are very close to the core of what I would say our divine nature is. And our divine nature wants to vibrate in a higher frequency, because as we vibrate in this higher frequency, we are closer to the source. We are closer to what we truly are. And I think this really plays into play with our auric field, because you have to think our subtle body system is also a part of our true divine nature. And when we have that subtle body system and that eighth chakra activated and vibrating at a higher frequency, it's most certainly going to impact the reality in the world around us. I have had instances of where I have been in, like, it's almost like I kind of want to joke and say, like, it's almost one of those old 1950s ads you would see on TV where it's black and white, where the dude walks in smiling and everybody else starts smiling, and then everybody's all good and they're all having a good time. I've had legit instances like that where I've walked into places and I've been just, grateful and joyful and in a state of abundance and in a high frequency. And it's like everybody immediately gets locked on and it's like, whoa, what's up with this guy? Why is he so happy? I want to be happy too. I want to feel these good emotions. So it is. And as I was saying, lower density frequencies cannot permeate the ionosphere. And that's why I think that even plays into what I would even say, I call it the reincarnation learning experience / trap. And I don't, when it comes to things like that, always in my eyes, it very rarely do the real answers sway to any end of the polarity spectrum. We always happen to find that the true answer lies somewhere right in the middle. So, and this commonplace with this, I mean, you have to learn that this is a trap. And sometimes it might take many lifetimes for you to learn that this is a trap. But I'll digress. What I was saying is that ties into that, because if you live your life in a lower frequency and you live your life stuck into the material realm, you're not going to leave here. You're going to come right back. And you're going to continue this until you do learn, until you do understand what's actually going on. I saw a comment pop up somebody had in regards to healing. I don't know if this was in regards to me, but one of the best things, can't it extend to unlimited for healing? I'm going to try my best. I think I kind of get what you're saying there. The one thing I will say is this is working with your subtle body system is going to remove almost all of the energetic blockages that you could be facing, because what you're doing, so these energetic blockages come from our meridians and the way that these frequencies and this energy flows through us. And if we are not acknowledging that we have this other part of us, this subtle body system, where our chakras and our energy meridians lay, what happens is we can get clogged. we can get blockages, we can get these things that can, and ultimately too, the one thing I'll add to that as well is we have the reciprocating Ouroboros of energetic and physical. If we have energetic issues, they will manifest into the physical. And we've seen this with stress. We've seen this with trauma. We've seen this with all of this. They will manifest into your physical being. So I do feel that if you work with your subtle body system, you learn to understand your auric field and the effects that it does have on the not only your subjective existence, but the collective world stage that we experience. I'm going to absolutely say that your healing is going to be accelerated and you will have access to unlimited healing. And one of the best parts I find about doing this is a lot of these revelations and a lot of these remembrances and realizations that you experience will be permanent. They will be embedded within you. It's not just a fleeting moment that sometimes we get from, a real good meditation or a very interesting entheogenic experience or something like that. These will be permanent things that are embedded into your being. So I do think it does open that doorway. Yes.
Wow, fantastic. Well said. I want to give everybody a little analogy what it's like for me. What it's like for me, have you ever been to a house party in the summertime? And usually too many people show up and there's not really anywhere to sit, and people are sitting on the stairs and it's super crowded and everybody's talking really loud because they can't hear each other, and it just gets louder and louder. And you get to the point where you go, oh my gosh, I wish I was at home watching TV, putting my feet up. And imagine you go out the back door and it's a fresh, beautiful summer night, and the sun's almost gone down and the birds are in the trees, and you get hit by the fresh air. And it's so lovely and so refreshing. And that's what it's like, I think, when we come into our power and when we come into our energy and we leave the problems and the cares of this world behind. I mean, we do what we can to be good people and to be, to affect positive change. But let's face it, we can't wear the world on our shoulders. It's exhausting. So imagine stepping out into the cool of the evening and feeling that breeze. And, the birds are sort of just all starting to simmer down out in the trees. And it's just so lovely. It's so lovely. Life can be like that. So I guess the bit of advice I want to give at this point is be careful who you associate with. And that includes how much time you spend in front of screens. It could be TV, it could be your phone, it could be a computer screen. There is some beautiful stuff out there, but mostly not. And it's so easy for me. It's so easy to get sucked in. And then I'm I'm breathing shallow and rapidly, and I'm not even, really aware of how beautiful life is at this exact same moment. So just be aware of your associations. This is cute. Mandela Miles says, my feet are up. That's awesome.
I think one of the things I'd like to leave everybody with is like I said, since taking Karen's course and a few of the things she's taught me about the energetic universe and inspired me to figure out for myself, is sometimes I do get really comfortable in my own existence, and then the slightest thing will happen and it's like, oh my God, my world's ending, something happened wrong. And it's like, sometimes I have to stop myself and go, dude, it's not that bad. You lost two people, or, somebody said something on social media that mildly upset you or doesn't like you and said something nasty to you or commented on your video and it hurt your feelings. It's really not that bad. It's nonsense, really, and it really has no effect on your reality. And as soon as you start to realize that, you're like, oh, right, it's just the internet. It's just somebody on the other end of the world that's upset with their own life or is having a rough go or maybe having a terrible time. But when it's really good, it's hard to overreact and think things are really bad, and it's really not that bad a lot of the time.
Canadian Spinja, what have you got to add to that?
I was actually going back to what Stephen was talking about with the subtle body and your emotions, and basically they manifest, like if you're like at a low vibration, that's how sickness and disease happen. And so if you're and it's just I'm discovering things, and I know Steven's ears are going to perk up because I'm going to talk about qigong a little bit. I don't know a whole lot about it. I'm still learning, but that's something that I'm figuring out, like, and I'm seeing is that, like, it's, yes, it is, it's physical exercise. There's also a spiritual component, but there's also the health component too, which I think is really, really cool because, um, like from what I'm understanding, like as you're learning, you're learning what emotions are connected to what ailments or symptoms or things like that. And I don't know if that's something that you learn right off the top, or if it's something that you have to dive in a little bit deeper. That's the part I'm still going down that trail. And then German New Medicine is another one that I'd like to sniff around as well, which also connects emotions with symptoms. And I think it's really cool that you can actually get some of these answers. And again, and I'm not going to say, do not replace this with a visit to your doctor. If something's off, absolutely go get it checked out. But it's something, it's kind of like Google for your body, like you check in and you see what's going on, and then you have a better idea of what direction to go. And if you can treat it at home, or if it's something that you need to seek help.
Awesome. Awesome. Good advice.
So one thing I would leave everybody with is this: do not overcomplicate this. That is the number one thing I think a lot of people in our community have a problem with sometimes, is we get too hyper fixated in the logistics and the exacts, and the we have to absolutely do it this way or it's not going to work. Well, you just made it, now it's not going to work because you dictated that to yourself. So keep things simple, guys. Don't overcomplicate it. This knowledge and these abilities and the manifestation and the subtle body training and all of this stuff that we talked about is accessible to you. Everybody, anybody who wishes to seek it, you can find it. Kind of tying in on what Don said, as well too, is even be grateful in the bad times. That's gratitude in its finest. I can't tell you how many people I look at that they'll walk around being grateful and having gratitude, and then something bad happens and all of that goes out the window. No, that's not how gratitude works. The universe is going to see you're still staying grateful, and your higher self is going to see you're still staying grateful, even though excuse me, you're being put through some things, and they're going to be like, wow, look at that, he's learned. Okay, we're going to reciprocate the learning process there. And another thing as well, as Spinja was saying too, it is when you really start to dive deep into these different practices, these different rituals, and these different types of training, you're going to start to understand the subtle subjective nuances, is what I call them. And we each all have our own kind of weird feel for how we do this, and you will discover what is unique to you. And that is the one other thing I'll leave you with before I end this segment of what I'm saying is you can adopt different methods from other people. Of course, most definitely. That's part of the learning experience that we have to do. We have to try something in order to know it works. But don't be afraid to add your own little unique spin on it. Don't be afraid to add a little thing here that you feel is going to benefit you. Like I said, don't get caught up in it. Keep it simple. This is all accessible to you. And guys, this was a magnificent conversation. All of you killed it. This was great.
Oh, thank you so much for joining us. Now, before we go, Stephen, tell everybody, what have you got cooking? What's going on at BG Cast? Where can people find you, and all that other kind of good stuff?
Well, BG Cast has been, we're coming up, towards the end of our second season in December. We're a little bit away from it, but I got a couple things I'm working on. I'm cracking away at a book right now. It's going to be called the BG Method for Total Physical, Mental, Emotional, and Spiritual Health. It's going to be a short ebook. that I am in the process of cracking away at. I am looking to potentially start a documentary in 2025. I don't know exactly when in 2025, but I have the idea together. And other than that, guys, I'm always doing my show. I will be doing 2 shows this week. Tonight, I will be doing a short kind of show with Chris Matthew, head of FKN. And we're going to be discussing some things that have been going on with the community as of late and everything that's kind of happened over the past weekend. And I'll have my full-length show tomorrow on Thursday, which is usually on Wednesdays. But since we're doing a double feature this week, this is how it's rolling. You guys can find me along with Karen and along with Don and Spinja on the Forbidden Knowledge Network at forbiddenknowledge.news. If you guys like Chris Matthew, Ryder Lee, Charlie Robinson, Corey Hughes, you can find all of them there. And definitely check out both the documentaries. Check out Forbidden Knowledge Louisiana, the occult documentary, and JFKX. You guys can find me on Rumble under BGcast, YouTube under BGcast, every major podcast platform, and all social medias under BGcast. And Karen, thanks again for having me on. It was real cool to see you again. And it was real cool to sit down here with you. Yeah, for sure.
Oh, so cool to see you again, too. Thank you so much for coming on the show today. Oh, just such a pleasure.
Anytime.
So, Don Rogers and Canadian Spinja, what do you guys got cooking and where can people find you?
All of my stuff, as Steven said, it is on FKN, so you can find it on audio there, and then on my own channel, March 4th Productions, and it's the number 4, and you should actually look Don Rogers at March 4th Productions because there was other ones. So you can find all of my content there, and I have to apologize. I really need to get off my ass and get her content under my heading on FKN because Chris was gracious enough to allow that like 3 weeks ago, and I still haven't done it. So I do apologize. It's coming because she has some amazing interviews with some awesome guests about everything that Karen explained about her podcast.
You can find me. I'm on YouTube, just Canadian Spinja, and I'm also on Facebook. I'm doing some more expanding. The thing I'm focusing on right now, I'm listening to an audiobook about psychic Reiki. I've got there, my hands are just itching. There's something going on. So I'm learning about healing modalities and different ones. And so that's a lot of what I focus on my show. And it's basically geared towards people I'm learning and come along with me. Thank you, Karen. I appreciate you inviting me.
Oh, my pleasure, my pleasure. So, yeah, so everybody, please do visit these folks. The links are below, and please feel free to subscribe to their channels and support the great work that they're doing. And as for me, you can find me on all audio podcasts, again, also under the Forbidden Knowledge Network, but I'm listed as the Quantum Guide Show with Karen Holton. Now, with all the video podcasts, I'm on X and Rumble and YouTube and all over the place, shamelessly, Odyssey, you name it. And it's all under at Karen Holton TV. So I'm pretty easy to find. And I have 2 shows. So there's one coming up on Sunday, and that's a community building kind of a Q&A and chat where I include the audience and the people in the live chat quite a bit. And this Sunday, July 21st, I'm very excited to say I have Preston Dennett and Dolly Safran as my guests. And for those of you who are familiar, Dolly Safran is a lifetime contactee with the Greys. So if you have any questions about the Greys, please do show up and come visit us and ask your questions. And of course, Preston Dennett, he's a MUFON investigator, prolific author. He's written and published over 30 books. So I'm very excited to have them on my show Sunday, which starts at noon Mountain, 11 a.m. Pacific, and 2 p.m. on Eastern Time. So that's about it for today. I'm wishing everybody much love and thank you, my wonderful guests. And we'll see you next month for the 3rd installment on this wonderful series. And
Thank you, Karen.
oh, you're very, very welcome. Oh, Mandela Mile said, thanks, good show. Thank you for joining us, Mandela Mile. Lovely to have you as always. And so I guess that's it for our show today. And we'll just say bye-bye, everybody. Thank you for joining me for the Quantum Guide Show. Become the change that you wish to see in the world. Subscribe to my YouTube and other channels at Karen Holton TV. Click the like button, leave me a comment, and share this podcast with your friends. Check out my website at www.KarenHoltonHealthCoach.com to see my free resources and amazing products and services. All the links will be in the description below. As part of the Forbidden Knowledge Network, you will find the Quantum Guide Show with Karen Holton and also the Aliens and Angels podcast on all audio platforms. Until next time, keep up the good work.